they're still looking for mentors anywhere in the state. We've hit some out west, Bismarck area. So they reach out to me and I send it out to many VSOs and veteran service organizations that I can. And please, if somebody wants to be a mentor, we provide the training. And is that a question for me?
Yeah.
Somebody's not. Okay. So anyways, that's all they need. They can do it virtually. They can work with the courts here. So if a local district says, yes, we'll run you through the Veterans Court program in Grand Forks, but you can be right here. We'll do it virtually, whatever they do need the mentor local. So, and then Cass County is definitely going ahead with their treatment docket. So we'll have 2 in North Dakota. And our last legislative session here, they added the rule that you may remove the conviction and suspension from driving record. So basically, if you get arrested for something that does affect your driver's record and you go through the treatment and you graduate, I think this actually went through drug court too. You graduate your veterans treatment court, get your coin, and you move on. They can say, yeah, this person's good to go. Let's clean up their record so that it doesn't affect their license and stuff like that. So that's another good thing. It's not automatic, it's for the judge. Well, let's see, legislative. ARPA funding for North Dakota veterans. Let's see, this is past legislative. We got that 130,000 for transportation. We spent 117 so far this biennium of the 130 that we carried over in this biennium. So we've got the AOK from OMB to finish spending that. We may spend it all this year. I'm sorry, this biennium. But if not, we can carry it over into the next year. But the rate that it's being used, it should be expired by the end of this calendar year. We got the funding for, what's the next screen? The Fisher House, there's 2 different bills, 500,000, and it happened after March, but we did pay that out. $100,000 document scanning, that is getting close. We spent 80,000, but I believe we spent some more in the last few weeks to take care of it. So everything's scanned, all the documents returned to the CVSOs, and now they're taking a data migration into a test site to see how it works, working out the bugs. And as soon as it's all beautiful, we'll migrate it into our system and everybody have access to all these documents quick as we can. There are some that were missed we're hoping to use, but we didn't have a contract, so we have to turn back that money. But we'll find another way to get those documents somehow scanned in. So we will have most of our DD 214s in there. Legislation, I tracked 47 bills this session, 10 failed. Of course, as we know, the meat grinder, some bills didn't come out as we intended, but a lot of our good bills beginning went right through unchanged, so that's great. I did hand out a summary for you guys, so if you're giving speeches somewhere, you can take that with. It's on our website as I find other bills that we may have missed that had anything to do with military or veterans. I'll throw those on our website, but right at the top it says summary. You can click on that, its PDF comes up and it just breaks it down to 1 sentence of what it did and then a link to the bill and the bill number so you can learn more if you want to. Of the 10 failed, 6 of them were opposed by us, meaning they didn't come through us. We didn't like it, like the Guard Act, the whole defend the Guard, make it a congressional charter, or I guess congressional act to use the Guard. So the president case, and we'd lose a lot of funding. So, we oppose that. We meaning the North Dakota Veterans Legislative Council opposed. One combined with another bill and passed, House Bill 1266, the property tax credit that failed as a bill, but they had the big 1176 property tax relief bill that the governor sponsored, or I guess not sponsored, but supported. And so they just added it to that. So our veterans property tax credit for disabled veterans went from $8,100 taxable value to $9,000. So basically $180,000 house, 200. The reason it didn't go higher, at least as I understand it, there's somewhere else in the law that's the cap you can have. It's 250,000 somewhere else. So it falls in line with the homestead and something else.
So that bill went to $200,000 now.
200,000 is what the actual true and full and true value of your home is, but they use the taxable value. So whether or not we bring it back again, I did get chewed out for bringing it. Why you keep bringing this bill? Well, they told us that years ago. This is how much you're gonna get. Instead of setting it on the median average of homes or whatever, and it goes up, so come back every session, we'll see what we can afford and home prices, we can adjust it up. So it's like, when are we gonna stop bringing these bills? Oh, this too. So,
What's the
supported it in the end. And we'll-
Ronnie, what was the reception to that?
What's that?
At 200,000, was that a knockdown, drag out fist fight?
The original bill we brought was for 250. The legislators that sponsored us said, let's just take the cap off. What the heck? You know, we're trying to get rid of property tax, take the cap off. And some pushback on the House side of that committee said, no, we'll go with the 200,000, just like everywhere else. And that passed through, no problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Some failed, supported by, Legislative Council in ACOVA, the claim sharks bill, that was our bill. It did get changed before it was introduced and did opposite of what we wanted. So when it failed, it was good for us. It was not, a bill we supported any longer. The bridge committee, that was withdrawn. That's where we'd have a culvert, somebody assign the bridge names instead of going to legislation. The legislators kind of want to keep doing that so they can sponsor it, and that's fine.
Excuse me, Lonnie, again,
Sir.
bridge,
So
I thought that made sense.
they have a committee?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they decided they didn't want to do that. I'm not sure who they is, but it was withdrawn by the sponsor before it actually got introduced on the floor.
So every year or every 2 years, we have to go back to the legislature and ask for bridge naming.
Right.
Rather than just have it done by a committee.
Take credit for it.
So it'll be the same thing. They'll approve it. It'll still be the same process between me and DOT saying, yes, this bridge is available to be named, to rename. The family wants this bridge, and then we just go to legislation. So we can reconsider that in the future. I'm not sure what the reasons were, but it got pulled without any hearings, so.
One other question on that claim shark bill,
Sir,
1169.
yes,
My understanding that passed.
it did. It passed the House and went to the Senate. It passed the House with a do not pass recommendation from committee. Went to the Senate and they amended it and passed it as amendment. And then it went back to the House and they had a committee and they couldn't come up with what they wanted. And it was very friendly conversation the whole time. And then they finally decided, fine, we'll take the Senate's changes, we'll accept them. But when it went to the floor, they had the floor debate again, and on the floor, they killed the bill. So last minute, 60, I think it was 60-34 vote, they killed the bill altogether again in the House. Second time was heard.
So we still have the claim sharks running around.
Right. The thing is, if they kept the bill the way it was, I couldn't tell you for sure, but the way I look at it is we give them permission to break federal law in North Dakota. If we were given guidelines, yes, you can do it in North Dakota. So I felt, and I think a lot of people felt, that it's better off not even being. Either way, if it would have died on the House floor that day or passed, they can still operate in North Dakota. They did talk about choice. It was all about choice, and I failed to follow up on this, but there's 560 some accredited claims agents in the country that could work in North Dakota. Accredited. These people were unaccredited. We just wanted to say, be accredited, let the VA sort that out and police it. That's all we wanted to do, and put a penalty in it so that they had to be accredited. And so they made it about choice, and I didn't catch that till later. I should have given them the number. I didn't think there was that much. But yeah, there's plenty of choice out there of people that are accredited that can do it. This is not VSOs, claims agents, individuals that are just doing this for a fee.
Okay, so the unaccredited claims agents can no longer operate in the state of North Dakota, is that correct?
Nope.
Oh, they can.
They're out of
By
here.
federal law, they cannot charge for what they're doing. There's no penalty in the federal law, right? So they're getting away with it. But, there are three or four bills now on the national level. There's the Guard Act that puts a penalty in there. There's the Plus Act that allows it. And then now there's a new one. I'm not sure what they call it. I've got it written down somewhere here, which sets the parameters of what they can charge for what. So it allows them to do the pre-prep at a certain fee with a cap, which would, what we tried to do in North Dakota, say, you can't do anything unless it's by federal law. And then they tried to add in, okay, you can charge up for this much. You know, it contradicts federal law. So let the feds figure it out. I'm hoping this congressional session, 119th, they'll actually pass one of those bills, because really it's a federal program, federal funded, federal laws. We shouldn't have to police it, which is kind of my point.
In a nutshell, unaccredited can no longer work here.
No.
They gotta keep their grubby paws out of here.
There's nothing saying they can't.
Yes, they can.
Or federal law says you can't, but there's no penalty. It's just like having a speed sign out here of saying 80 and having no fees for going 120. Nothing we can do about it. There's no penalty, so they're doing it.
So we're back at it again.
That was the reason for the law, for the bill, was to put some teeth in it, but it got changed, so. But hopefully it'll go back to the feds and we don't have to fight this again, so. And it wasn't, they built this about those that lobbied here, those two agencies, but it wasn't just about them. It's all the others that could come in that, aren't being so, truthful and honest.
There was a significant amount of high speed, a lot of money lobbying that.
Yeah, there's billions of dollars that they make off veterans already off this. And that's fine. Veterans do have a choice, but they should be accredited. You can't go get your hair cut without your barber
Exactly.
being licensed. All right, military compact, physician assistant. No idea why this one died, but that was military. That bill died. And that's just a compact so that, you get transferred to the Air Force in North Dakota here. Your spouse is physician's assistant. It takes them forever to get licensed or get their permit to work somewhere in North Dakota. The compact just says, okay, you have a provisional permit until you get up to speed. If they might have one with some states, but for some reason that one died, the rest passed. So every session we're bringing these compacts because every profession has it, and we want to make sure it's smooth for our service members' families, so they get right to work when they get here. Next, the National Guard and Reserve Burial Medallion did pass. Yay! Myself and everybody else, I put in a nice fiscal note of about 45,000, but there was no funds put on the bill itself. So again, an unfunded mandate. I feel bad. I didn't catch that. I put in my fiscal note. I got busy with a few other bills. And I did send something off to the legislator that sponsored it. So we got to figure out how to fund this because it's in law. It's not a may, it's a shall create. So I'll have to talk to my attorney about that and figure out what I can and can't do because I'm going to have to find money somewhere. The bridges for the fallen, of course, that went through. I think we have 7 bridges, plus there was a highway name for Private Gerke, Commander Gerke. He is a Medal of Honor winner from World War II up by in Cavalier County. So I'm glad they did something there. Again, the physician's assistant that didn't go through. Tuition waiver. This is for possible legislation next time. Tuition waiver, of course, that one didn't even get introduced this time. It missed the cutoff date to add a veteran to that and duplicate the property tax. So we'll see if they have a flavor for it next time. And of course, the property tax credit. Just got to watch those. I'm sure we'll be bringing something. And then if we haven't fixed it by then, the consideration, will the legislative council want to bring the claim agents bill again? It shouldn't be so hard this time. I hope people are well educated. Next, transportation. Grant approved. We've got almost $600,000 for this biennium on the grant for the highly rural. 2 replacement vehicles. They came early. So we were in a budget crisis. last few years, we ordered right away in October and took until September of next year to get a vehicle because, we're behind. They showed up in February, I think, said, hey, they're here. And so our budget was, we just needed permission to expend those funds, so we got that. So those vehicles are replaced. Senator Kramer is working on expansion bill. Those vehicles cost $70,000. We're allowed $50,000 for a year per area. So we have to split it between areas. Gets to be a budget issue the year we get a van. ARPA pilot, the 130,000, we spent 117. I'll show you the numbers we got off that. It's been successful. I'm going to be sharing this with the highly rural or the rural VA Rural Health Advisory Committee that I'm on, but they moved our meeting that's supposed to be next week or last week because they don't know if they're going to be funded or they'll exist with all the cuts going on. So I'm hoping to bring it to the leadership there, that committee, and say, hey, this is all it costs for a biennium to expand to all of North Dakota. That's not bad. And when we got a $600,000 grant still. DAB bands, we replaced 2 in 24. And then we said, yeah, let's do another one, 25, 27. They ordered one. It's here. So in July, we'll pay for that. And then we should be done for several bienniums. So we've got all new vehicles out there now. It's looking good. The VTS, that's the vans at the VA that they pay for, and they have paid drivers. They can go pick you up and bring you to your appointments. They take you to the other community care. It's a great thing because that's one place where we failed to be able to help our veterans. So that's up and running now.
And Lonnie, that's only in Fargo?
Right now it is. Their plan was to expand that. And the thing is with that, it's a 2 or 3 year grant. So the VA says, here's money. You get to go buy vans, pay people, and run the veterans around, make sure they get their appointments. And then in 2 years, you don't get that money. You're supposed to make it up on your travel pay and stuff. It does work, but it's a risk. So they're taking that risk. And if it works out well here, I'm pushing for Williston, Dickinson, Bismarck area, because that's still a problem getting from Dickinson to Bismarck for specialty care. Williston to Minot is getting better, but with our highly rural, we can't serve Williston people. So we've got all these programs. Next slide, you'll see them all. All the miles we've done, I think last biennium, what do we do? 800,000 miles? Not even, no, we're at 800, with 700,000 miles, we're already at 827. So altogether, our ARPA grant, our DAV vans, highly rural, we pay for the VA same day surgery. So if you have take a medication and knock you out or whatever, and you can't drive after your procedure, we'll pay these people to come pick you up, take you to your hotel or your home, and make sure you get inside and everything. It's not like an Uber. They're like ambulance medics. And then the VA Uber. So if you end up going to urgent care or get brought in from somewhere, don't have a ride home, we'll pay the taxi. So those are different programs. So we've served about 8,454 trips we've provided this way. Bravo. And Dan and I would like to get this down to 9. Have the VA do the BTS, just run them all. But it's not there yet, so we'll keep things going. And as they dwindle up, I think the BTS should get rid of these 2 at some point, because if they have that van there 24/7, they could give these people rides. So those programs might go away. Next page, audit. Performance audit, still got a few things sitting there. That they're out of our hand. Can't fix those. But 2023 audit, there was no recommendations at all. 2025 audit, we're working with them right now. They're set up a meeting, an exit with us, and they told us there's no recommendations. So good job, Dan, Kathy. Nobody else does anything. It's just they do what they look at. So they did look at a lot of different things this time that they hadn't looked at in the past. And we had all the ducks in a row. So we're very happy about that. Well, yeah. No, when that one comes through, because they did up to 24, so next time they do an audit, they'll catch that million. She'll be already, she'll be on an island that she bought with $1 million. With that, any questions? Be around for the legislative. I can give you updates if you want to on that. It's kind of long, but that sheet is pretty explanatory.
You want to explain Senate Bill 2025, what they did or what they did?
Okay, 2025, since this is being live streamed, none of us had a chance to put in any input on this thing, so it was brought at the last second. And the idea was to put the commissioner's position under the governor, right? And the way it's written here, I work at the pleasure of the governor, whatnot. In looking at it, I don't think it really does a lot to change anything. Same with the vets home. In visiting with the governor's office too, I don't think the current governor is looking forward to running a veterans home or us in any way. Hopefully somebody come over and visit with us what their intentions are. But there's many other sections of the law where the ACOVA is, 3718.1, I think, and 3714. All these sections weren't changed, so the ACOVA still runs the loans, the post-work trust fund. You basically advise the governor on everything. So as far as all the policies and everything that you do, none of that's changed. However, Dan and I no longer get evaluated. They took that out, so no evaluation for us. I see that's on there. There's the working at the pleasure of the governor, and this would become law, I guess, first. Well, it's in our budget, so this whole bill probably July 1st then, since it's in the budget. And if you want, maybe our attorney could go over if you have questions, but I didn't even see it before it passed. By the time I really had time to read it and go through it, it didn't look like they really did a lot to, it's not clear. So we're hoping two things that the governor's office mentioned coming over to discuss this a little bit, right? How they see it. So I'm not going to speak for them and say they don't think anything's going to change, but my impression is the ACOVA is still going to function. No change to the ACOVA makeup. You just advise the governor, and that's about it as far as the commissioner and the director of the home bill. The board still exists on either one, and I don't think the governor's intended or wants to try to run the veterans home on his own. He's going to need a board and a director on that. So I guess I don't know what to say on the rest of that. I thought, well, you know, Representative O'Brien wrote this up. We could invite her in to explain the intention of what changes they want to see. I'm not sure that we see too much of a change there. Because there's a lot of other sections of the code where what was on there. I think they took out the only reference to the Veterans Legislative Council in the law. And basically, any issues you have, you know, I could go over this a little bit if you'd like.
Yeah.
Okay. And if I'm wrong,
It's on their minds.
yeah, I know it. So our budget actually came out well. We got 500,000. I should mention, we got 500,000 for the post-work trust fund. We got $500,000 for veteran homelessness prevention and elimination. No idea what we're going to do with that. Okay, I've got ideas, but there's no guidance in here saying you will hire people to do something. I'll bring something to you guys. It's really your choice, as far as I know, to give us guidance. We'll work with the Attorney General's office, Legislative Council, we'll be everybody and say, what can we do? Knowing the people who brought the bill, the sponsors, the legislators, really what I think would be the simplest, most economic way to do it would be working with the SSVF, CAPND, those who do not just veteran, but homeless programs and veteran homeless programs to supplement their grants. Okay, so if they run out of money, I know that they don't have enough for all the veterans, but okay, if they do a grant for GI Joe comes in and he needs help, rather than us having to hire somebody and put together the grant and learn about that person, see if they're eligible, set the guidelines, use existing guidelines and existing programs and just here quarterly or monthly, these are the ones that are helping, we'd reimburse it. That's what I would recommend. However, I need to work with all the government agencies and then talk with those that run these programs now to see what they want, because they're the ones who came to testify on our bill. Remember, this is the bill that we wanted that percentage of gaming tax to go to post-work trust fund. They jumped in with us. I thought it was a great partnership personally, because it's a big issue. We would split that money. Half of it would go to prevention of homelessness, the other half to the post-work trust fund principal. And that's what ended up. We got half for both. So with that, we got some funding for equity for our VSOs. We got another staff employee. PTSD dogs got put back in the budget instead of carry over. So not really changed. It's just a paperwork thing there. They did throw in $50,000 to supplement the raise. The raise is what caused a big concern, and they thought we were deficit spending, which we were not. Kathy will tell you, yes, we are. Everybody's deficit spending. They started this employee pool. So all the employees in the state are in a pool, right? And so if we have an open position, that money isn't in our budget for us to use somewhere else. Like some agencies, well, we got this, we can give people raises, you know? So basically they're in a pool, and if we don't have it filled, there's no money in our budget. So they give us like 80% of our staffing allotment, right, in our budget. And if it's full and we have employees the whole time, towards the end, we say, we're gonna need those funds. And they transfer it over, no problem. So when they asked us about a deficit, we said, yeah, you know, we've been fully stocked. We had no turnover. All of our employees have been here. We're short. And so that was like $80,000-$90,000. And so, whoa, your deficit spending. And then it went to a bill 1024, which I didn't know existed. There's a deficit bill out there that all the agencies that are deficit, they get put on this list, and then they go through it and they say, yeah, we'll give them money for this. I didn't know that existed. So anyways, here I got a raise. We're deficit spending about the same amount, and we're spending state funding. Well, it was all federal funding. We didn't deficit spend because of it. And they said, well, you didn't have the authority. Well, you did. So there's a lot of confusion there, and they felt that that's why we should be on the gun. But they did put in 50,000. So just to recap, admin fees off that, we get about 100,000, right? So that's enough right there. Plus we have line item of salary of almost 100,000 to buy in. So you got plenty of money to pay for that and offset the wages. So we never deficit spent. So we got 50,000 of that back, which I think should be state funds. Shouldn't be counting on federal. And once it was explained in the Senate, there was like, well, okay, they didn't feel you overpaid me by any means. It was just that it was done with, you committed general fund dollars without their permission, which you didn't. I think just a sit down and a clarification might help on that. So we got the 500,000 coming. And this, okay. Bring that up at all, Dan. Senate Bill 2025 is in our put a copy in the drive in the ACOVA meeting. It starts out 25 dot something. So it says the employment qualifications, term, and salary of the administrator of the veterans home must be prescribed, and then it used to say a section, and it says by governors. So basically, the governor decides the qualification, salary, administration, right? And then after that, it says if the ACOVA is crossed out, the governor may designate the administrator as a commandant of the veterans home if the administrator is honorably discharged. Veteran. So in the past, it's always been a commandant, right? And then they cobalt go and say, hey, you know what? Just because you're military doesn't mean you can run a veterans home. So they opened it to non-vets, and so you're an administrator or a commandant. That's all it changed there, right? I don't think that's too bad, just the governor sets the qualifications and appointment. Since you advise them, I would still think you could advise who gets hired. I don't know if that's something that you would have to work out. Yeah, be about right, so.
Yeah, that's the way I understand it, is the committee would advise the governor who makes that decision.
And so maybe it would be good if we don't change this to just set up our own policies and then maybe administrative code with the governor and say, the recommendation from the board to hire this person gets approved by the governor or rejected by the governor. Otherwise, the governor will have to go through the process of hiring. So that's something that when we visit with them, I think would be a good thing. That was the first part there, right? Number one, and now on number two, and you might have to make that bigger for people if you can. On the next paragraph, the only thing that has on there, now remember, if it's written there, words that are just by themselves, that's existing in law. If it's underlined, it's new words. If it's crossed out, it's being removed, okay? So on 37-15-16, very bottom there, I think you're too far ahead. Right here. So right here, all they did is carrying out the programs, benefit services, and yada, 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 Dakota Veterans, that's authorized by the government. So the Department of Veterans Affairs, they accept and expend funds. So this one is about me taking funds. So that does change what you do. So I'm not sure you really even do anything on that because there's, yeah, we're gonna have to check on that because right now, like with the coins, that's legislative. But like with the Vietnam vet coins, that was with you guys. You said, yeah, go ahead, accept some funds for that and create these coins, right? So now I would say we'd have to go to the governor. And then, of course, approval of the emergency commission. If it's federal dollars, I guess. That one we're going to have to double check on. So if we're going to start a new program, like with these medallions for burial, since there's no funding, if we want to accept private sources for that, we probably have to send something to the governor saying, is this okay? Before you guys could just approve. So you'd probably have to advise the governor and say, we think you should allow us to do that. The committee is responsible for advising the governor on the organization policy guidelines of the Veterans Affairs. So instead of you being responsibility of everything at the Veterans Affairs, you advise the governor. So that will come up to, I guess, the governor will decide how you're going to advise him and what he wants to do. So that's oversight of just my agency. Let's see. Chairman, secretary jointly shall appoint a 7-member governing board for advising the governor. Veterans Home within. So you still appoint the board. But the board doesn't have all the powers of a regular board anymore. They're advising the governor. The way I see that. So now the board is probably going to have to just, when they want to do a rate change or something like that, allow those little things, they're probably going to have some kind of MOU or communication with the government, I would think. Because that's really a lot of what you do is set the governing board sets a lot of things like administration or admission rules, background, policies, fee rates, qualifications, all the ordinary powers, establish appropriate salary structure, all that good stuff will go to the government. So you'd advise it instead of just making it law, send it to the government for approval, I think. Okay, go down to number 2.
Is there an office of the governor or things are supposed to be forwarded to?
Remember Danny at all used to come here? There hasn't been a replacement name for her yet. So right now, former General Dorman kind of being our contact until we get that. So what we'll probably do is invite him in. But until then, probably if you're having a meeting next week, maybe ask if he can show up, give some guidance.
Is Danny still with? I thought she had
She
told
went
him.
with Bertum.
Okay,
Yeah, so she's decorating the country.
okay. Well, yeah, because last time she was here and she had said she would be,
Yep, she
Like
stayed with
communicate-
Armstrong and
Yeah,
then
that-
Bergam invited her, so
Gotcha.
she went.
okay, I did.
Great
That
opportunity.
would explain why she didn't return my emails.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't feel so bad now.
So they removed all this about me being a bona fide citizen, all that good stuff from here. The Commissioner of Veterans Affairs shall serve as the executive secretary. The commissioner has no votes. So nothing's changed there, but I don't serve at the pleasure of the committee. The committee will no longer determine salary. And Veterans Affairs limits of legislative appropriations. That part got taken out. Not sure what that really does, other than takes away your ability to appoint and so I don't serve at your pleasure, so I guess I serve at your displeasure for now, I'm not sure. So,
Well, the way I understand it to be is that every 4 years, change governors, that's your job to be gone.
that's the question we have,
That's
because
the question I got too.
I really do too, because
There's no continuity there at all
I'm not sure where it says the governor does appoint. So, and that's where we come to,
at the pleasure.
can we have the ACOVA says we want to hire this person and then the governor approves it, or does the governor send you the commissioner? We need to clarify that. That's my concern. My only concern on this, knowing other states that have the governor appointments, there's some pros and cons. But what I've seen, and I've trained the majority of all the new state directors in the country, because I'm the old guy now. Those that get appointed by governor every time there's a change, they barely get their program started and they're up. Unless you have deputy commissioners running around that actually do everything, then a figurehead can come in and just lead the way. But I'm a manager and I'm a working commissioner. I've got to do the work. So there's nobody to do my work for if I'm not there. So that goes away with me. So that's my concern with the appointment. On the recommendation, board committee shall present matters needing attention and action to the governor, which this is where they took this out, appropriate board, commission, agency, Department of Health, and North Dakota Veterans Home. So if you guys, as a committee, tell the chairman, hey, you know what? We should present this to HRMS. We should ask Human Services for this, that, and the other thing. Now you just go to the governor according to this, instead of saying, hey, you know what, we should really work with this group, bring them in. So I'm not sure why that got changed. They could have just added governor, I don't know. It was done kind of quickly. So. Next page, I don't see how it's making a difference. There was nothing saying that you can't go to Human Services and say, hey, we need some help with suicide prevention. So, no longer assure compliance, you advise the governor on compliance with federal and state laws, Department of Veterans Affairs, the home, to carry out provisions of the chapter. Instead, you just advise. So I don't see a lot of that having to change. You're just telling the governor, hey, this is what we think needs to be done. So the annual performance evaluations come up. Evaluation presented committee, that doesn't happen anymore. The board shall create, implement strategic plan. Hey, you guys don't have to do a strategic plan anymore. The board subcommittee annually shall report to the status of a responsive strategic plan to the committee. After receiving the report, the committee shall submit report to the governor. So you no longer have to do a strategic plan, is all that takes out. And do an evaluation. And that's it.
What precipitated this?
What?
What happened? I mean,
Misunderstanding, you guys gave me a raise. Not for that. So that threw up some red flags. I'm not sure how it threw up such a red flag, but they're like, well, what gives you the right to give me a raise? They were confused that it was general fund dollars, but what you did is you appropriated federal dollars, which are available for salaries, because back in 17 or whatever, they took $100,000 of our admin fees and paid salaries. We fought to get that money back because if we lost that highway rural transportation grant, I would lose my loan and grant officer, who was 100% paid by state funds before they supplanted 100,000 of it. They took $100,000 of general funds out of our budget salary line item and replaced it with our admin fees, which we can do, but that's not the idea. The idea is we can just return those funds or use them for whatever, right? And Kathy just goes through and takes our admin fees and pays whatever, we can do whatever, as long as it's for our organization. I think the only thing we can't do is give bonuses, stuff like that. But we just, instead of us reporting to the federal VA, what we use that 10% de minimis admin fee for, we just get 10% and we can offset our expenses or use it any way we want, right? They used it for salary, we fought against it, and finally got it back. So used it for my salary. But if that grant goes away, my salary goes away. So we asked in our budget, as you recall, for the state to pick up the difference. They didn't have to. The governor said, yeah, we should. The Senate said, no, we shouldn't have to do that. Okay, we used to hide to work. But then it was kind of like the perfect storm. We got the new employee pool thing that's confusing as heck. We were deficit on that. And so when they asked your deficit spending, where's your deficit? We're like, this is how much we're going to need to get our salaries to the end of the biennium. And nothing to do with me. Overall salaries. So they've been putting money in what, monthly or?
No, we had to request it,
Yeah, we requested.
and you have to wait for a certain date to request part of it. And now towards the end, we'll get the majority of, we'll get the rest of it, because OMB had to figure out who all needed. It wasn't just us, it was all the agencies.
So it was confusing to me, it was confusing to them. And then we figured it out. And so, yeah, they thought it was general funds. They thought you deficit spent, and now you're going to them just to make up the deficit for this biennium we're in now and going forward. And that wasn't the case. I met with them on the side afterwards, said, hey, this is what happened. It got to the House and it was still confusing. By the time it got to the House, he thought it was like $400,000 were deficit. So I got a big raise. And that wasn't the case. But ball was already rolling, and I don't believe you guys did anything wrong because it's federal dollars. And then we even checked with HRMS OMB. If the grant goes away, can my salary go down? You know, legally, can you reduce someone's salary like that? And as long as it's understood when they get, it's contingent on this. Yes, that's the way the grants work. Oh, okay. So if we lose it, that's my bad, and I lose that raise. They did look at it and said, well, that's a big raise. Then they went and looked at your justification, and like even Deborah said on record, you should have gotten more than that. But it's the way it happened. So it's not that you gave me the raise or the amount of raise. They think you should have went to them first and said, hey, we want to do this. And then
When you said bamboozled,
legislators, you should have went to our budget committee this session and said, we want to give the commissioner this much of a raise, and these are where we're going to get the funds. Even though the law says that you set the salary within, which they appropriated those federal fund dollars and admin to our budget. They say it's okay for us to accept and expend it. So it is appropriated and can be used for salary. We do use it for other salaries and use it for salaries for years. As we got the general fund back for the others, you guys move it over to me. We're still going to turn back $100 and some thousand in surplus at the end of this biennium because we're cheap. We don't spend money. So it's going to happen. There's going to be a refund there. There's no deficit. We've never had a deficit.
all this because of a raise?
Yes, and confusion on it, yes.
And who was the driving force?
Representative Brian,
Who?
Well, that was in the House, yeah. She's the one who did the changes here.
Representative Brian from Grand Forks.
And
She's
what's
the
her
one who
issue?
presented that. Yeah. That helped clear it up. So it's not that you guys overspent, it's not that you're overpaying me. And they say, yeah, no, you're definitely not being overpaid. But there's been this understanding for years. I remember with Lyle Shukar talking to Bullard and Everett about this and Everett, that we set the salary, how do we do that? And it's like, if you can find the money in your budget, go ahead. Instead of them putting the money in there. So, okay, so that's always been the kind of the cart and the horse thing. We can get raised as long as it's somewhere in your budget, but we're not gonna give you more money. You know what I mean? So
If you want to answer, Tom,
it was confusing.
sir. That one person was the bee in the bonnet?
Bottom line up front, yes.
There was, the Senate had some serious issues, concerns too, as this came up. But it is a them on the side too, to explain it, because yeah. Well, big raise, your deficit spending, I'd be concerned too, but it was explained and the documents were given. I thought it was cleared up by the time it hit the House. Dutch Bielke, who was the chair at the time, came in to explain it. And, that wasn't acceptable.
No, it did, I saw that. It wasn't received well.
So unfortunately, it caused, some upset feelings. So.
Okay, Tom,
Sir.
she came up with all that stuff on her own?
Well, the advisory things, I suppose, to change everything from us to the governor under his purview, but he's already in charge of us. He appoints us.
Yeah, the appointments, that was my point too.
He doesn't appoint me, but if the governor ever wanted me gone, he could just call up Murray, say, Lonnie goes, and Murray can say, no, Murray goes, next. Can you get rid of Lonnie? No, you're gone, next. I mean, he has control. I mean, it's checks and balance and the power is there. But
But then
No, it's
again,
one person.
Lamar, I really don't know what her issues are or were. Coming out of that Grand Forks districts, all the problems that we're having up there with the other issues that are going on in Grand Forks, the university, and trying to maybe take some focus off of Wendy, and I'm not gonna say the state Holmberg's name, but all that focus, and she was one of his acolytes.
you know, my issue is this should have been a policy hearing. You guys should have had a chance to talk. A lot of this stuff could have been gone through. If there's a need to change it, it's been tried for 20 years. This last minute change, I object to it, but it happens a lot. There's a lot of this going on that policies are put in with creations. I didn't think it was allowed, but it is.
The other thing, I heard this number,
No hearing.
Right, that's just it. There was absolutely no hearing for us, for you, for the
Yeah.
public. That's an issue I gotta go down. This really should have been, or should be the policy, and I thought it would be next spring that they would be bringing this bill, and then the last minute it did show up, so.
now I heard the number 7. That's for the governing board of the Veterans Home, is that correct? Okay, so that's 7.
That's not changed. That's still the same.
That's still the same. Under the ACOVA, in order to remove the ACOVA, that has to be a change in law, because it's set.
What do you mean?
Well, you have 3 from AMBET, 3 from everything.
No, that hasn't changed. The appointments are still there the same.
So in essence, ACOVA stays the same.
That's not how I read this, though. What I read is everything that we do has to go to the governor.
Not everything.
It for policy, for everything. So when we go through and want to change limit on something, it's got to go to the governor. Any kind of policy that we have, your loan policies, everything that we vote on
I'm not sure.
runs to the governor, the way I read it.
Okay, but, 30, North Dakota State Code 3714 is the Food Store Trust Fund and Loan Program. You're still listed there. Nothing there changed.
Nothing there changed.
And 3718, Veterans Affairs, nothing there changed.
But right here, it says any policies and stuff that
Right.
needs to go to the
That's the
governor.
way I kind of read it too.
So I'm wondering if that policy is about the agency itself, employment and hiring. So this is,
So
That's what the question becomes.
no, yeah,
I was like, well,
Question.
what am I coming to COVA for? Just gonna tell the governor I think this, I mean, he does what he wants.
so
That's the way I read it.
I think we do need to have those questions put together, to the governor's office, because what they did is chapter 37, whatever it was that they addressed here, it's just 3718.1, which is the ACOVA. That's the only place this was changed. So 3718 Veterans Affairs, 3714, the post-war trust fund, and what is the veterans home, 3714 or 13. The veterans home, nothing was changed there in that one. It's just the ACOVA. So if the ACOVA is mentioned in any of those others, it doesn't change that. So there's where there's, because you're not in just one section of the code. ACOVA is in like 3 or 4 different sections. So a lot of concerns on my part. So
Yeah.
With that, at some point, we should probably request the governor's office and or Representative O'Brien come in and just share this, or attorney generals or everybody to come in and say, okay, what does this do for us?
Yeah.
And in my opinion, from the way this worked, because we did have, or you did have advice of the attorney general's office, OMB, HRMS, the governor's office was here when we did the raise, and that's the problem. And we thought we had legislative input too in the past, because active legislators we did visit with on it. I think you have to have it on the record and have a legislator in here to give that guidance, because if there's more complaints like this in the future, there are concerns.
Run that by me again. We have to have a legislator in here?
No, I'm suggesting you get input from all of these groups. The attorney general's office should be able to just give you all the input you want, but maybe you want to invite the rest, or at least you can say, hey, we want to get, what's your intention? What's the outcome? That's really what this is supposed to be about. What's the intention? What are you trying to accomplish? And is this doing it? Because their intention might be to change all baseballs to an inch bigger, but the attorney general says, no, it doesn't say that. So there's an interpretation of law, and the writing of the law, does it do the same?
And definitely next meeting, we have to have somebody brought in and clarify this. All the concerns.
And I still work for you guys until then. And after that, I still work for you guys.
Till when? You used the word till when?
You guys can get rid of me any second by law. After that, I'm not sure if you can get rid of me, or you have to tell the governor you want to get rid of me.
The governor can do it just post haste. I mean, he's
Now he can't. Now he has to contact you guys,
August 1.
then, or July 1, whatever.
Yeah, it's July 1 with these appropriations bill. If I can clear up a little bit, and I hope this helps, but again, I think we'll get a lot of insight when we start working with the governor as far as how this is going to actually work in practice. But I think the role of ACOVA stays the same. It's just when you make a decision, there's one more step of approval from the governor's office. So what that process looks like between ACOVA and then the governor, I'm not sure what that looks like for us yet. But I think your normal duties and roles stay the same. There's just one more step of approval with it. So the governor is going to entrust you folks, because he's not going to have the time to sit and go through every policy that ACOVA handles. He's going to trust you folks with those decisions, but it just gives one more check as far as before that becomes final. The governor signs off on it, and that'll probably be somebody in his office that reviews it, and will simply be passed on.
You used the term one more step. What is that step?
Well, it's going to be that approval of the governor or his office or his designee. So again, what that looks like, not 100% sure, but that's the way I read this, is that your duties are still the same. They're just putting one more check on it so that ACOVA doesn't make the final decision. I hate to say it that way, but it goes to the governor for then one more step of approval on us.
So with my salary, if they would have just, the ACOVA wanted to give a salary increase again like this, they say, we're going to recommend to the governor that we use these funds to pay the salary this much. And then the governor would sign off on it, and then it would all be good. Right? That's how it would work now, if that's what they want to do.
Yeah, sorry, July 1. That's the way I understand it. Again, I think the legislators were concerned that with salary specifically, that you guys could decide like, oh, we want to give Lonnie an exorbitant amount of money and you had the power to do that. They wanted one more check in there just to make sure that, I don't know if Lonnie had friends or what the deal was. Just to make sure that, again, there was just one more check. And I don't know how to explain it, or I don't think it was distrust of what ACOVA does or anything like that. The legislators just thought, I guess they were just more comfortable with, instead of a board having the final say, the governor than having the final say.
So the governor's gonna appoint the commissioner, correct?
Yes, sir. Starting July 1. Yeah, he serves at the pleasure.
So, okay,
And you're right? If a new governor comes in, that new governor could replace Lonnie with somebody else. That happens a lot with other cabinet positions that the governor has. They bring in their own people. How much desire a new governor would have in changing the commissioner of Veterans Affairs, I don't know. I would assume it's more beneficial to keep a person in there that's been doing a long time. So, but it's hard, it's impossible to tell the future and how that will actually work.
And same as the veterans home, would be the same thing, but identical thing.
Yeah, again, there's gonna be a lot of incentive to keep somebody who's doing it right and doing it successfully. And so my fears of change with that are minimal, but there's the possibility that a new governor comes in and says, I don't like Lonnie, I don't like Dan, we're gonna put new people, my people in there. And those happen a lot with political positions in the governor's cabinet. It may or may not be a concern with these decisions.
I'm not concerned with this guy. I don't think he's
Not this one, no.
got a desire to change anything, but it's the future that I worry about.
Yeah.
Past Lonnie, past Dane, as we're gone, that's something should happen. Really. Director of a veterans home, that's not that easy to fill. It's, as Dane knows,
If
he's
he
got,
have somebody, yep.
he's got years of to do it, so.
Can we go back to section 12? Can you define for me and for us the term committee, subcommittee, and the governing board?
Well, so a committee is you guys as a whole.
Okay.
Subcommittee is your legislative committee. Well, I'm in this one, North Dakota Veterans Affairs is a subcommittee. The governing board is a subcommittee. That answer?
Well, then let's go down to paragraph 2 then. A member of the subcommittee may not serve on the governing board of the Veterans Home.
So
Is that-
you cannot be on the North Dakota Veterans Affairs Subcommittee because you're on the subcommittee for Veterans Home.
Can you say that again, please?
So you are on the committee, right?
Okay.
But you're not on North Dakota Veterans Affairs Subcommittee, are you? Okay, so you can't be because you're on the Veterans Home Subcommittee. So you can't be on both for some reason.
Okay, that's,
But that's where we had confusion as well too, and we read that, and that's, you and I talked about it previous to the meeting, but
Yeah.
we had a lot of, I had, people on our board who are also, on this board and wondering, are we gonna have to make a choice? And, obviously you explained it better to me as well too, but like you said, I think throughout a lot of this, some of the wording was, and I'm not, criticizing anybody, but some of the wording was poor. Some of the wording was very, non-specific, and you kind of get lost in it. If you're not used to looking at this and reading these every single day, it could cause a lot of confusion. And I don't want to necessarily say panic, but I definitely, just within our board and setting things up, and that's why I haven't sent our agenda out yet because I knew we were meeting today, and I'm like, well, hopefully we get some. I've been talking to Mark a lot as well too, but just clarification with some of those things.
And if I may, sorry to interrupt.
okay.
It's important to look, especially in paragraph 2, there's no new language in that. So the language that's not underlined or struck through is already existing. So they haven't changed how your subcommittees are made up or your committees are made up. The only addition was advising the governor. So your committees as they stand now and how they're made up now, assuming they were, they fit this law initially, they would still fit this law. So there shouldn't be any new concerns about, I'm serving on this, can I serve on this too? If you're serving on it now, you can continue to, again, assuming that you complied with the law when you first got your.
Okay, well, I got another question on that issue. is it true that you cannot be serving on ACOVA and be on the Veterans Home Committee? Is that true?
No, because the, ACOVA is not a subcommittee, right? So this refers to a subcommittee member. So if you're on a different subcommittee and the Veterans Home Subcommittee, that would work.
Say that again.
So the ACOVA is the committee itself. From ACOVA, they break down into subcommittees.
Yes.
Which will be smaller groups of people. You wouldn't be able to serve on multiple subcommittees at the same time, including the Veterans Home Governing Affairs. So again, I don't know all of the subcommittees, I apologize, but if you were on subcommittee A, you couldn't then serve on Veterans Home.
No, we have at the present time, under the DAV, we have an appointee, Dave Shaw, to the Veterans Home. Okay? He is also a candidate to be a member of ACOVA. Can he do that?
Yes, because again, serving on ACOVA is not one of those subcommittees, so it wouldn't strike you out of one of the other sub.
So clarify this, because it just happened. We have a member who is on the Veterans Home, Dave Shaw. He has also been nominated to be a part of this ACOVA. What you're telling me is that that's completely okay.
That is my understanding. This law itself is how the subcommittees are made up, and whether or not you can serve on them has not changed.
He just can't. The Veterans Affairs Subcommittee.
Yeah.
Turn your sheet over here, your agenda. The back of it shows the subcommittees way in the bottom. So you can't be on the Veterans Affairs Committee and the Veterans Home Committee, those two there. You cannot, your name can't be in both same spot. That's exactly what he's trying to present.
Okay, so the subcommittee of Veterans Affairs,
Yes,
you cannot be on that committee and be on the Veterans Home. Is that correct?
that is correct.
The subcommittee, you gotta forget about this committee, it's a subcommittee, it's a committee under this,
Yeah. I know.
so.
The ACOVA appoints all those subcommittees.
Correct. So ACOVA appoints a member of, in this case, Dave Shaw is not a member of ACOVA. And I'm doing it. Now, he was nominated as required, two names go to the governor's office to be a part of ACOVA. So will be a member of the Veterans Home Governing Board and ACOVA at the same time. That's perfectly legal.
You just can't be on the Veterans Affairs Committee. You
Yeah,
can't be with other two committees.
He then wouldn't be allowed to be on a different subcommittee. So once he joined ACOVA, you couldn't be like, okay, we're gonna put you on this subcommittee as well. Which I'm sure he's thankful for. Just one sub.
Hal has a question.
Sure, you're on that committee.
Hell,
Go ahead, Hal.
Temporarily.
Hal, you can unmute.
Now, can you hear me?
There you go.
Okay, once somebody is accepted to the ACOVA committee, he or she is eventually going to be assigned to a subcommittee. Once they're on that subcommittee, that would make them ineligible for the Veterans Home. According to this.
only Veterans Affairs Subcommittee and the governing board of the Veterans Home Subcommittee, you can't be boo on.
Top of the whole episodes play available for its one-year pedigree. Option starting.
This is my last
The
meeting.
Subcommittee for Veterans and
You can throw.
Affairs is the only subcommittee in law, in Century Code. That's the only subcommittee that's mentioned.
He can get rid of all the committees he wants and set up different ones.
Who?
This man.
Chairman,
So, Veterans Affairs, the committee that oversees our department, must have one member from each of the 5 organizations on it. That's why there's one member from each of the organizations on my subcommittee. That's not required for the Veterans Home or any other committee. Veterans Home, according to your own policy, you want to have at least one member of the ACOVA on the governing board to represent the ACOVA continuity. That's your choice. We have two. And then we'll have three. And you don't have to be a veteran to be on the governing board, but you have to be a veteran to be on all the rest of it. It's simple. Actually, it's just Veterans Affairs is the only one, like Kathy said, that is required by law. You have everybody on there and you can't dual serve. You can't be Dane's boss and my boss at the same time.
So
Which,
the only one that are concerning is the Department of Veterans Affairs Committee. That's it. You
Yeah.
cannot be on that committee appointed by the commissioner or by the chairman. And any other subcommittee.
nope, and the government. You have two state agencies, you
Okay.
can't be on both boards.
Okay, I think I got this. It's confusing as heck.
Yeah.
So Chairman
I
Strom
understand.
is actually a lawbreaker because I'm on the ACOVA and the Veterans Subcommittee and the Veterans Fund
Are you really on the Veterans
Yeah.
Affairs Committee? No, you're not.
temporarily.
That's right, you're filling in temporarily. Lawbreaker. We'll have to change that next meeting.
I'll be gone next meeting, so. You're safe.
I'll bring up one last detail about his salary. When we talk to legislators give raises for classified employees only. He's not a classified employee, so everybody thought the legislator, he's getting a raise. He's not. So when we found that out, he says, okay, we're supposed to set his salary or adjust, that's why we did that. Otherwise, in my book, the budget affair people up there should have been looking at this, saying, oh, we're not giving him a raise. That should be put in his budget. That I put that back on them, not on us. When I found out we were supposed to be doing it, that's what we did it. Otherwise, I said, I did not know that until I come to that meeting before. I said, I did not know that. We're gonna take care of this right now. And that's when we all jumped on and got together and started working on this problem about salary and getting all the information. So we'll put that to rest and we'll get clarification from the governor. If he wants somebody being advised, there should be somebody sitting in this meeting at all times. That's, and same with your governing board meeting. That's how they get advised. Otherwise, I don't know what how they want. They want minutes, stuff like that, and they get double approval. I just don't know. So I know it's frustrating, but I will have to work through it. That's all we can do. But thank you for explaining that.
I hope it helps.
Yeah, we'll move on.
All right. Thank you. And you'll notice on the agenda, we discussed my salary again. So one last chance to give you a raise. Oh, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I'm about doing 25% clear on that. All right, is Major Sheldon on? He's still.
Yes, sir, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Does that have to do?
Yep, I can hear you.
All right. Hey, good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me on. I'll try to be brief with my updates. Apologize that I wasn't able to get any slides submitted. I am currently in Guernsey, Wyoming, visiting our 816th MP company as they train down here. I'll just jump right in. Just want to talk briefly about mobilizations and deployments. Currently, the Air National Guard, between their home station Title 10 mission and overseas mobilizations, they have about 231 airmen currently mobilized. That's a pretty significant number for them, especially for those outside of the continental United States. It is a pretty standard rotation. Every about 3 to 4 years, they do have larger groups supporting missions, largely in CENTCOM in Europe. The North Dakota Army National Guard currently has 53 soldiers deployed. The majority of them are in support of the southern border. They are from the 142 Engineer Battalion based out of Valley City. Next, I'll just touch on a few construction projects that are starting to get near completion. The Dickinson Readiness Center is a combination of state and federal funds, about $27 million. Should be complete this fall, and we'll be sending out some information on ribbon cutting for that event if you're in the area. And then 2 projects up at Camp Grafton Training Center near Devil's Lake. The first is a fitness facility that is being built largely to accommodate year-round testing of the new Army Combat Fitness Test, which in the matter of a couple weeks will become the Army Fitness Test, as they decided to remove one of the events, the 10-pound ball throw. So still a 5-event test. And then the other project up there is a line of communication bridge training site where we can train all of the bridges from the Army inventory in one location. Upon completion, this will be one of only 2 locations in the United States that has this capability, the other being at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Both of those are scheduled to be complete in the fall, but we are not planning to do a ribbon cutting or kind of a grand opening for those until the spring. So again, more information to follow. Legislative session, heard a lot of the discussion that the Department of Veterans Affairs dealt with through the session. Probably more entertaining and time consuming than you would have liked it to be. But the North Dakota National Guard had a pretty successful session. One of our biggest victories was what we are calling critical infrastructure state match. We have over 330 buildings valued at just under $1 billion across the state of North Dakota. And in the past, we were getting $1 million of one-time funding per biennium to match the federal dollars to maintain those facilities. This session, we were able to get 1.5 million in our general fund budget, so we have consistent and ongoing funding to maintain all of those facilities. And then we did get 4.5 million of one-time funding to try to make some headway on maintenance issues at those locations. In the database that tracks that maintenance, they have over 1,000 eligible projects with a cost estimate of about $80 million if we wanted to address all of the eligible maintenance projects at those 330 buildings. So we're just kind of scratching the surface with the funding that we have, but we hope that this will allow us to continue to use all of these buildings well into the future. Another project forthcoming at Camp Grafton at the Regional Training Institute. We're looking to get federal funds of about $34 million to add an additional lodging wing to that facility. It was originally planned to be a part of the facility, but due to cuts at the time of construction, about 12 years ago, they did not add that second lodging wing. So this is a kind of a just finally about time project. It's going to get done. Williston, the state legislature did give us $2.5 million to design a Williston Readiness Center. That is, and we explained to them with the intent that we will likely come back next session and ask for money to actually construct that facility. The city of Williston has set aside about 20 acres just south of their high school for the purposes of an armory. And that's valued at last estimate that we got, which was probably 6 years ago, was about $6 million. So it's probably property now valued at upwards of $10 million. So we'd like to support them in Williston in our unit there. Alpha Battery of our Air Defense Artillery Battalion is stationed there. Lastly, on the budget side of things, we also use some vacant FTE position and some carryover funding from our state tuition assistance budget to start a pilot program that we're calling the Next Generation Leader Program. This is could be compared to a junior ROTC program in high schools, but it's a program that's intended to be 100% online opportunity with a portion of that online opportunity would be participation in a National Guard drill weekend and a conversation with a recruiter. And then we're working toward trying to get this to be an in-class program as well. Currently, the Center for Distance Education has a military pathways program up and running. They opened it this current semester for high school kids, and they got nearly 40 students enrolled in it. And so we're working to engage those students and encourage military as a career opportunity. Not in our budget, but a budget item that was talked about a lot during the session was the North Dakota Military Gallery and the expansion of the North Dakota Historical or Heritage Center in Bismarck. That did get approved within the Historical Society budget. There were some reductions in the requests, but everyone feels good and are hopeful that we will be able to see and conduct a groundbreaking of that military gallery this fall. Couple policy items for the North Dakota National Guard. We were able to increase the death gratuity benefit while service members are on state active duty. If you are in a federal status and you die while in that status, your family receives $100,000. Previously, for the state side of things, it was $15,000, and we're just trying to align our state benefits with our federal benefits as best as possible. And we are also able to get medical coverage for illnesses or injuries that require care after state active duty missions have concluded. Previously, the way the law was written, once the mission ended, your care for any injury or illness that occurred on state active duty also ended. So now we have the authority to care for our service members, again, for injuries or illnesses that occurred on state active duty after that state active duty mission has ended. We were able to conduct a land transfer with the state hospital in Jamestown in order to have property to construct a future Jamestown Readiness Center. The unit there, the 817th Engineer Company, has recently gone through a force structure change, which grew that unit by 54 soldiers. And they have already been tight in their current facility at the Jamestown Civic Center. So we're working with our federal delegation in order to get the funding for that new facility in Jamestown. And then lastly, we worked with Senator Josh Boschee to remove the 90-day wait period to access your military leave for state and political subdivision employees. There's been a couple situations recently where a member of the National Guard was hired by a state agency, and within a few weeks or a month, they had their annual training scheduled, and because of this law, they could not leverage their military leave and had to go to annual training in an unpaid status from their state job, even though the state has a very good military leave policy. There was a 90-day wait period, and so they eliminated that. They could not find in research from legislative counsel on the justification or reasoning for why that wait period was implemented in the first place. It was quite old, and so because they couldn't address any of those issues or concerns, they decided to waive that period. Commissioner Longan touched on a few of the licensing compacts. Specifically, he talked about the physician's assistance compact. That one it did get introduced, but we ended up running into some opposition from the board just before the session started. And so although it was heard in committee originally, it was essentially withdrawn. The other one that did not pass was school psychologists. We did have some issues there as well with the board and concerns that they had that came up very short notice just prior to the session starting. with school psychologists and a teachers compact. So we're hoping to continue to work with them and find some resolution on those two compacts. We did pass a social workers licensing compact, a dietitian's licensure compact, and a, what was the other one? Shoot. Occupational therapy, excuse me. So those three licensing compacts did pass. And there was another bill introduced by Senator Hogue that is an attempt to try to get licensing boards to become a little bit more consistent and streamlined in their processes. And one of the items within that bill is that all licensing boards must review active compacts in their profession and consider them on an annual basis. So that might be helpful in the future. I think that's the last thing from the session I'll talk about. We will have some meetings coming up. Commissioner Longan usually participates in the North Dakota Military Commission Summit. We're working on dates for that later in the summer. Civic Leader Day is something that we do to try to engage stakeholders. That will probably be, we don't usually do that in the years after the session. It's usually in the even years, so we'll look at doing that in the future. And again, we have a couple construction projects that are going to be opening up, and we'll look to get some information out on those. So if you'd like to attend, you can. Lastly, I'll just mention, many of you have probably seen on the news or heard through the grapevine that the Department of Defense is not immune to the federal reductions that are taking place. And the North Dakota National Guard is also not immune. We recently had to notify 25 temporary or indefinite federal technicians that they were not going to be able to continue to be employed by the organization after May 31st because of budget reductions to that salary pool. We've heard from numerous locations that the active duty Army is looking to reduce by somewhere between 60 and 90,000 positions, with the cost savings of those losses being pushed toward the Air Force and the Navy in preparation for a potential China invasion of Taiwan. We need a more agile force that can be located near that conflict if it were to start off there. And then there's been some discussion about capabilities as well with Army Aviation and some other assets that are being discussed as being reduced. So although not everything you hear on the news is accurate or necessarily correct, there is definitely some truth to and some consequences being felt in North Dakota to the reductions that are taking place within the federal government and DOD. So with that, I will stop and pause for any questions that you might have.
Jay, Michelle,
Yes, sir.
positions that have been eliminated, are there any uniform positions?
Yes, some of those positions are uniform. Again, they were temporary or indefinite employees, so they, although some of them have been employees for many years, they were aware of their temporary or indefinite status. And unfortunately, we had to release them. There were some civilian employees. You may have heard about a fork in the road email that came out a couple months ago that offered a kind of an early retirement buyout program for civilian federal employees. We did have, I don't want to say an exact number right now, but I want to say it was around 5 of those employees that either took that original kind of buyout option or has since taken early retirement options. So we are working as an organization to get to the number that we are authorized for federal employees. And this is federal Title V and Title 32 technicians. This is not currently our active guard and reserve force, which is a different status of full-time employees that we have. There is discussion that we will have to look to reduce that employee pool as well, but there has not been any force reductions currently of that status.
Thank you, Jay. Looks like you're good, Colonel. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you guys, and I'm gonna drop off the call as we're looking to be traveling back to North Dakota yet this morning sometime. So thank you again, and if anything comes up, just let me know.
Yep, thank you very much. Yeah, guys, not on.
He might be on, but yeah, he has no
He's
presentation.
got no presentation, okay? Okay, we'll go on to North Dakota Cares. Michelle, you're up.
Great. Can you hear me and see me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So thanks so much. Right now, I just have a few slides to show you updates on what we have been doing, the more significant ones. So let me share my screen. May I?
Yeah, right ahead.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So just a few updates. Our Broadcasters Association, that's a big part of our budget. We have just finished Legal Services of North Dakota. We ran that a couple of times. Later on in the year, we'll probably run that again, just to make sure that folks understand that Legal Services North Dakota has a special grant to help veterans. So always keep that in mind. We have a Vets to Vets peer support training. This was an official 40-hour training to have veterans become official peer supports certified through the state. They wanted to. So we ran that for a little bit. And so we are happy to report that 5 people are going through that training right now. And that's the 40-hour training. So that will add to our peer support numbers that are actually veterans. And then we also had a professional development for providers understanding veterans, and that happened in Bismarck a couple of weeks ago. So active ones, call 988 veterans. It's a military/veterans campaign, and I'm going to show you some of the creative assets that happen there. We saw the Compact Act running. We have a rally point peer support that's going on in Bismarck, and then also the Veterans Home. And so for the Veterans Home folks that are in the audience right now, we've been running that, I think, for probably about a year. So if you've got anything else, if you have an updated ad that you would like us to run on television, let us know. And then upcoming, we've got this Stand Downs in Bismarck, and then we have Indy Hope's Veteran Stories. So that's great. New partnerships in terms of businesses. We have PSAM, which is the Peer Support Association of North Dakota. You'll be hearing a little bit more about them. And then, and just to remind everybody that when a business becomes a partner, they get window clings to put on their front doors or anywhere that they can, and also a big certificate that says that they are proudly supporting military family members. And then for the communities, we'll have the entire Morton County become an Indy Cares partner, and then they get big road signs that they can put anywhere they want. And McKenzie County chose to put them on their county signs, under DOT county signs. The military data book is done, and it is currently on our website. And just for the sake of time, I just didn't want to open it up and go through a few things, but there's demographics, employment, homelessness, behavioral health, veterans justice, suicide, and our governor's challenge initiatives are in there too. And so you can download one right from our website under publications, or if you want some hard copies, let me know and I can make sure that you get them. Especially if any of your departments are have some upcoming conventions and you'd like to give these to your leadership, be happy to send them to you. Or have one of our outreach reps that are in your area drop them off to you. And then, so just one Governor's Challenge update right now. So our media campaigns, I had mentioned briefly the 988, urging veterans and families to call 988, and the Indy Hopes, stories, that should be stories, sorry about that. Focusing on stigma and seeking competent care. So right now we have 2 veterans that have volunteered to tell their stories. One of them is your very own veteran, Steve Anderson, and I understand he's not there today. He's helped us out before with a media campaign that actually went national. So we are very excited to have him work with us again. And then also one of the CVSOs, and the other part is the state, Mark Honstein. So sorry if I don't know exactly how to pronounce his name. And then we might possibly have one more. Again, this is for Indy Hopes. Indy Hopes is one of our partners. They actually are out of the University of North Dakota. They have a 5-year CDC grant, and that's how we're doing some of these stories. And of course, they're all being aired by our Broadcasters Association. So the 988 campaign. So these are some of the creative things that you will see around the state. They'll be on billboards and posters and coasters that may be showing up at your posts if you have a liquor license. So just be aware of that as well. And then there will also be at some sporting events as well. So this is a military/veterans. We sort of try to combine them. It says your service matters, so does your well-being. And so we specifically have one of these on a billboard that's going out of the Minot toward town, because we're realizing that people who are in crisis are taking action on that crisis, not on base, but outside. So we want to make sure that we remind them that there is definitely help. You may remember Sergeant Nathan Griffin on some ads that we've had before. He is happy to join us again. And then we also want to make sure that family members understand that 988 is just not for military or veterans to call, that they can call as well. So you will be seeing some of this. And then if I just want to see if this works. So can you see that now?
Yep.
Okay. So what I'm going to do real quick, because I forgot to do it, is I'm going to share with audio this time. Include sound. Okay. Now,
wherever I'm at in North Dakota, 988 is here.
For me, my friends, family, or my soldiers.
Whether I'm in crisis or I just need someone to talk to.
When the world feels like it doesn't fit.
They listen to what I'm going through, and they don't share my information with anyone.
988 is ready to help.
988 Crisis Support Line, this is Hope.
okay, and so that is probably what you're going to be seeing. Again, this is not 988 press 1 for veterans. You can always press 1 for veterans if you want to go to the VA. Again, that's not answered locally. 988 is answered locally. And there are some folks that don't want to be sent to the VA, and that's okay. That is okay. So because this was largely paid for by the state, they had to omit any reference to the press 1 for veterans, but you still can once you call 988. That is an option that you hear. So that is really all I have. And I can send some, links if you're interested in having that again, if you want to necessarily show that at any one of your state conventions that may be coming up, I can do that as well. So that is all I have right now, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Michelle? Oh, thank you very much, Michelle.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Appreciate it. Oh, and I'm sorry, one other thing is that the Governor's Challenge, there's also an innovations conference that is happening next week. And North Dakota is proud to be able to be one of the presenters for our suicide fatality review, and how that's doing. There's a lot of states that don't have that. We do, and it's been a success. And so we have a chance to present that. So we're excited. Thanks.
See you next week on that.
All right. See you next week. It'll be you, me, Melissa.
Thanks.
All right, we'll continue on. We're back up to Ron Gelder, from the VA. There he is.
Hello, sorry, I maybe I missed my opening on the first go around there. My apologies. So just going to start with some director updates and kind of work my way through it and answer some questions at the end. Had a good year so far. We recently completed our Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services survey rating, and we're proud to say that we came back as a 5-star facility, and that's great. And I'll honk the horn for the VA. 49% of the VAs in the nation are 5-star, compared to 8% of non-VA facilities in the nation. So VA scores very, very well in their surveys. There was another survey group called Trajector Medical. To be honest, hadn't heard much about them before I saw their survey results, but they had scored the Fargo, North Dakota as the second best city in the nation for veterans to live in, related to the healthcare that's provided. So we received some positive news there. As far as updates in our area, we did a ribbon cutting in Williston April 30th and Dickinson in May 1st. Those are our 2 contract CBOCs, and the ribbon cutting, we're kind of celebrating Valor. That's the vendor, third-party vendor that runs those clinics anyway. Well attended, heard positive comments from people in those areas. May 22nd, we're going to have a veteran virtual town hall for Minot, Bismarck, and Devils Lake. So hopefully that information with contact gets out to everybody. And then as far as just some other stuff, Atlas sites, which are accessing telehealth through local area stations. It's kind of a thing that's been growing here. Recently had Bow Bells opened an Atlas site on May 7th, and Watford City is currently getting one up and running. And what it is, it's a computer station in Bow Bells. It's at their CVSO office. At Watford City, it's going to be in the American Legion, and it's a site where veterans can come and conduct telemedicine appointments. And oftentimes they'll get assistance at those sites and how to do it. So as far as some construction projects, first here in Fargo, we had delayed our outpatient mental health building while we were looking to get a fiber line moved, and that was accomplished, and we're looking forward to resuming that construction to get that outpatient clinic up and going. In our south parking lot, we're still working on our whole health edition and hoping to see that completed here in the near future. Burgess Falls, I know that's Minnesota. Construction, we're getting a new CBOC clinic there. Hopefully that is opening this year, targeting the ribbon cutting August 6th. And then Grand Forks, targeting a ribbon cutting September 1st in 2025. And, both of those clinics, the biggest thing is just going to be much bigger sizes. Both are going to probably at least double in size. And then also of note and important to this group is just the planned construction in fiscal year 26 for the Bismarck CBOCs, and with the intentions being the same thing, a significant increase in size and also looking to try and expand the services that we're offering to veterans at that CBOC. And then last thing I had here, just from a leadership in the VA, and it was talked a little bit about the challenges in hiring and staffing, and I'll be ending my detail as the interim director the end of May here. We do not have the next replacement publicly announced yet, but we'll have that here in the coming short time frame. So, and the last thing, and I'm anticipating some questions. I listened to Lonnie talk about the Fisher House, and that's exactly where I have it too. We did meet and identified a spot. It was October 31st. It was Halloween, so I was there, present and aware of it, and had kind of hoped that we'd have more of a ability to announce the location, but I guess we're going on 7 months or so since that time and running through some legality. But I have not heard anything negative about it. So I've kind of believed this to be a no news is good news. And although we can't speak about the site, it is in Fargo, North Dakota. It is within a couple or a few miles of the Fargo VA healthcare system, and would be a wonderful thing. And like I said, I'm hoping that no news is good news and we have something to report here soon.
Excellent. Any questions for Ron? I got one for you, Ron. Is
Yes,
there,
sir.
there a spot where this Atlas sites are listed? Computer
Is
sites,
what?
These computer spots you could talk about, access sites?
Atlas. It's like Atlas, like a map almost. Yes.
Where's that site at that shows where all these are at?
Where is the site that shows where they're at? So right now we have Bowbells in Watford City. And they're kind of initiated by the community. So a lot of the funding is paid for by the Burke County or the Bowbells County and the Watford City. We put a couple in Detroit. We put one in Detroit Lakes, I should say, VFW Post. We put a different one in Park Rapids. So it's kind of a community funded project that the VA works in collaboration with.
I just didn't know if there's a spot that says all these are at, like I know there's one in Lisbeth, that veterans home there too.
Yeah, that Lisbon wouldn't be considered an Atlas site because Lisbon is more of a VA partnership run. So that one we definitely have our hands in more so. This is so there's only the two of them right now. I should say the one right now with Watford City coming on board soon.
I emailed it to you, Murray.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for?
I have one question from Mark Kruger here. In Bismarck, has the site been selected for a encompassed CBOC?
The site has not been selected. There were a site review was conducted though. I want to say there were 6 sites that were submitted, and they did a preliminary, but it has not been selected or announced yet.
So as of today, there's no new site to announce. Is that correct?
Correct.
Rod.
Yes, sir.
Online, a clarifying question. You said this Atlas site in Watford City. Is that at the Legion Club or is that the Family Center?
American Legion is what I have written down.
Not at the Family Center. Okay.
But, so I'm going off of information that's given to me. You may know Watford City better than me, but I haven't been to either spot, so.
All right, thank you very much, Rodney.
You bet. Thank you all for what you do.
Thanks, sir.
Continue on, Jerome from the Job Service North Dakota's on.
Yes, I am going to audio right now. Okay. Well, thanks for having me, and I'll be very brief. I'm lined up with meetings. We're finishing off a JBSG audit, which is the audit for the Veterans Jobs for Veteran State grant that we just went through. I know we had one about 2 years ago with Marlis. Took the new DVET on, and looks like DOL vets wanted to give him baptism by fire, so they cited us down for a limited audit, and we've in the tail ends of that, and we did really good with it. Nothing popped up to be concerned about, and he's pretty happy that he's got an easy team to work with. For my team right now, for veteran services, within the past four rolling quarters, we did 148 veterans received intensive individualized services. 135 veterans we worked with through the Chapter 31 program, which is the VA VRNE program, providing them labor market reports for them going back to school for various occupational trainings. 38 veterans we received back from the VA that are job ready, and we're working with those veterans or have worked with those veterans and finding employment consistent with their training that they received. We also provide services to 35 newly registered veterans in our system. A few of those have relocated to this state from other states. We're really happy about that. And we've responded to 122 web form submissions and inquiries from veterans and employers asking about job opportunities in North Dakota and or looking for assistance in finding employment. Our performance indicators for this past quarter, we've exceeded our second quarter after exit. That's the exit rate that DOL evaluates us on for 2 quarters after we find veterans employment. Our goal was 62%. We achieved 62.7%. Our employment rate, 4th quarter after exit, which is those veterans we worked with 1 year from them finding a job, our goal was 61%. We're at 59.9%. And a lot of that is the drop in that by a couple percentage is they just changed jobs, and we're rapidly finding reemployment for them. Our median earnings for the average veteran we work with, our goal was 7,600. We've exceeded that by 8,900 is when we work with a veteran, that's about their increase in their wages. North Dakota unemployment rate right now is at 2.4 for veterans. Non-veterans are at 2.9. The United States unemployment rate for veterans is 4.1. Our veteran employment rate, we are second to Vermont. We're tied with Vermont, excuse me, and we're second to South Dakota. South Dakota is just slightly under us, not by much. Our presence is still, the team is still working closely with the Grand Forks and Minot TAP programs, assisting those veterans in transition. We're starting to get a few of them are actually staying in North Dakota. SkillBridge is working for us. I got my staff up in Grand Forks is actively engaging employers across the state to help them set up SkillBridge programs to attract some veteran talent back to the state. Find a Good Life North Dakota has been working for us. To date, we've managed to pull in 5 veterans that access that site from outside the state, and they're now employed in North Dakota. We're continue working with VTC. Grand Forks is the one we have on board right now, and hopefully we can get another one somewhere in the state. Last but not least, we got a departure from my staff. We did a position change down in Fargo office. Funding did not allow us to keep one of the DevOps in that office. So we had initially dropped that position down to halftime. That position has now been removed, and that individual moved to business services. So Fargo is down to 1 DevOps. And we lost some funding when DOL passed out their annual funding requirements to us. And we sustained that position as long as we could, and it was no longer feasible for us to do it. So Fargo is down to 1 DevOps, but that will not affect how we do business for our veterans in the state. They still have priority service, meaning that any staff in the office can assist them to help us, and we'll be good. We still have staff in Minot, Bismarck, Grand Forks, and like I said, 1 in Fargo. And with that, James Torgelson, the DevOps in the Fargo office, is set to retire 30th of this month. And he's going to be joining his family up in Duluth and get some rest and relaxation for him. But we have new hire, Jeremiah Crum, retired Air Force, military background, is operations paralegal and public service. And he will be starting with us on the 2nd of June. So it's not going to be much of a gap in there. Other than that, we look forward to having Jeremiah join us. As I understand, his wife's from Mayville, and so he has roots in West Fargo right now, and so he's going to be a good addition to the team. And that's all I have right now. Any questions?
I see no hands, but it looks like you're doing a pretty good job keeping those numbers down. So thank you very much.
Awesome. All right. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll move on to Chris Deary. Chris, you on there?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, well, thanks. Yeah, so we just wrapped up a couple of weeks ago. We had our state training where the majority of the counties came, and it was about 2.5 days. So we got that through. Lonnie was present there and gave us some information as well. To stay accredited, and that kind of gets us into our, some bills that Lonnie had discussed earlier with that HB 1169. That was a big one for us. Pretty much, Lonnie kind of alluded to that earlier, but it's really a consumer protection. We want to protect our veterans. That's kind of the big one on that. And then I was fortunate enough, after my training before that, to go to Washington, D.C. for a NACO, the National Counties Veteran Service Office Leadership Summit, where it was a productive couple days there, but they did talk about sharks there as well, and one was called the GUARD Act. So we're for the GUARD Act that would protect our veterans from these sharks and non-accredited folks. And then I'll steal this one from the VFW, but it's the PLUS Act that we're against. That's the one that please let us steal, is what the VFW commander said. So that would open the floodgates. So we definitely want to hit our leadership on that and not allow that PLUS Act to get through in the federal level. But Lonnie did a hell of a job this session. He really put his neck out there, and I guess I'll speak for him. He probably doesn't have a lot of friends right now, but maybe a couple of those in the meeting room there. But no, he really puts himself out there, and like I said, he probably deserved another raise after this session. He really got batted around there, but we were very, very thankful for him and putting himself out there again and helping with SSVF and Senka and getting that $500,000 to the Post-War Trust Fund. That was a huge accomplishment and a lot of back and forth, with various committees and things like that. So we definitely owe him a round of thanks. It all started with HB 1504, and then it roped into that 2025 that he was talking about. So hopefully we can all meet as the association here and kind of give him some guidelines too, and then come to you as the ACOVA board and see how we can, help our veterans. Because I think on any given night, we had some research out there, but any given night, there's 250 to 300 veteran households that are experiencing and are on the verge of homelessness. So, we definitely want to get that down to zero and get affordable housing and work with our our service members and those service organizations and nonprofits to, keep those funds there and to help, with anything else we can kind of come up with to keep our folks housed or get into housing. Some other issues that came out from my trip in DC, we had the new Secretary Collins of the VA spoke. He had a 30-minute speech, and some of that was about those cost cutting ideas. These were just spoken, so I wrote them down real quick, but a lot of things coming from DC, are trying to trim budgets and save money. But some of the ideas were ending unemployability at veterans' retirement age, reduce benefits when veteran hits Social Security retirement age, reducing VA benefits for vets with low ratings. So he had mentioned 0 to 20%, and then end VA medical care for veterans in priority groups 7 and 8. So that was pretty scary to hear. Hopefully that doesn't ever come to fruition for any of our veterans. Then he went on to say that, some of the cost cutting measures already that, $300 million was put back into community care. At a time last year, the VA in Fargo was saying, we can offer that thing here or offer those services at the Fargo VA. And now community care is kind of back in the option, which costs a lot of money as well. But he did say after that, a reduction in force is coming. So we have to be prepared for that. It's just kind of what it is right now. But he did state that, our benefits are an earned benefit and hopefully that those are all off the table with our service connection. But I mean, just sitting here right now, we get calls every day from veterans that are worried about their benefits, about their health care, about the type of services they're going to get. So, all I can do is keep doing our job here, keep people aware of what's going on. But right now we're in some unprecedented times with things that are out of our control. And hopefully, if we hear things like later after this, I have a meeting with the VA leadership too. And hopefully we can dispel some of those rumors and hopefully give our veterans some good news eventually here. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of is what it is right now. And, we just want to be treated fairly here. So hopefully we can get everyone on board and transparency would be the best option, but we know kind of how that's going. A couple other things we talked about at the meeting was improve access to residential treatment and more options for care in rural areas. So that's on the table. Representative Fedorchuk was really on board with that. And then at the NACO conference as well, they brought up non-service connection versus service connection for burial. With the cost of funerals and inflation, they might be working on a cost disparity there. Service connection death, you get $2,000 plus transportation, and that's right out the bat or right out the gate there. But with our non-service connected, it did go up a little bit, but it's, it was prior, it was like $794 and some change, but it had gone up a little bit the other day I did see. But with the plot burial and transportation, things are just getting more expensive and it's going to just be more out of pocket expenses for our veterans too, unfortunately, if they do pass away. So with that reimbursement. So those are some of the things we're working on. I kind of wish I had some better news, but I'll keep the board posted, and if anything changes, I'll let you guys know right away. But yeah, with that, I'll take any questions.
I see no question, but yeah, reality sucks.
Yeah, no, I know. I kind of didn't want to say the bad stuff, but it's out there. So if you hear any rumors or anything, let me know. Shoot me an email. I'll gladly look into those, and hopefully we can dispel those and keep our benefits in our hands there. Well, thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, Chris. Move on. Got Vernon Lanning with the Veterans Governing Board.
Yeah, I won't have much since Dane's here, but did want to mention we still have a vacancy on the home board. Lonnie just gave me a name here a while ago, so we may have a full board again, but
Dave Peterson?
Yeah.
Yeah. He gave that to me too.
So
that'll come up later on today.
Okay. That would be one. And then also that my term on the board is technically up, but I'm open for reassignment, assuming this board finds it in their heart to burden me with that again. But other than that, I'll just turn it over to Dane. He's a lot more knowledgeable on this than I am. So.
Thank you, Vern. And I always start off with saying thanks to all of you guys for your respective service. And I say that most sincerely and cannot say it enough times. So thank you for everything that you've done for us. So just to talk about the North Dakota Veterans Home, I usually just kind of like to give a little a synopsis of where we're at just with residents. So currently we have in our skilled nursing area, we are full, so we can have up to 52 skilled nursing residents at one time. And we're currently full with 52. Waiting list is usually anywhere between 6 to 8 individuals who have some who have applied to come right into skilled, and others who are currently in our basic care, and I don't want to say are necessarily teetering, but at some point will need to transition into the next phase, which for them is nice because if you're a basic care resident, you go to the front of the line to go over and transition into there. So I think we're doing well with that. We continue, to have staffing challenges just like anyone else. So our, CNAs, LPNs, and RNs, we utilize contracted staff agency quite heavily. So, and none of that has really changed as much. But one thing I'll talk a little bit about just the legislative, our Senate bill, which is number 2007, and kind of went. But one thing that did get passed in there, we did get an equity increase for our nursing, which again would be our CNAs, LPNs, and RNs. So as of July 1st, they'll all get a pay bump across the board, which I thought was fantastic. So, and we also, as a state agency, we are in the process of doing the yearly evaluations, and then that's when they also would get any, I don't want to call it cost of living, but basically your, from your employee evals and just your bumps. So between the equity for the nursing and the their eval process, they should, as starting July 1st, their rates will go up, pay rates will go up. So that will, we just hope that helps to retain some of our staff and to attract. Attracting is always going to be tough, just with our location to get people down there. But so just to talk a little bit again about, so our Senate Bill 2007 is our number, but that everything for the most part, I thankfully, neither myself or Kristen, and Kristen, our CFO, really does the majority, excuse me, of the presentation on that. We did not, I feel for Lonnie, he's a heck of a good guy, and he did get, he had a couple tough days, I'm assuming. I shouldn't say I'm assuming, but hats off to you for everything that you do for everybody. But from our standpoint, we really had a good turnout with that, and the things that we needed, everything went through. So again, and a lot of that comes down to, like I said, Kristen, our CFO, who's been there for 22 years. She really takes great pride in making sure that we are very good stewards with the money that we receive from, from the state of North Dakota. So most of, like I said, everything that we were really looking to do and get out of there came through. So just within the grounds in the facility, so we talked a little bit about, we had started this project. This even predates me. So I've been there, I just celebrated being at the Vets Home for a year. That was May 6th. But when I came there last year, they were already in the process of, we're going to be building some garages and storage units for our basic care residents. So we put up it's not quite done yet, but it's 14 garages and then 8 storage units. And the storage units are on the each end of the garage facility. And we just put out sign up sheet to see who was interested in all of those, and we will have them all full. So we did come up with, these garages were paid through the Melvin Norgard Fund, which is a former resident of the Veterans Home who left some mineral rights to us, and we're just, able to use those funds to pay for this. So we additionally were approved for $750,000 to build those garages. And when we got the bids open, I think the low bid was $816,000 and the high was like $1.4 million. So if you go back and look at any of our, during our legislative session, we did have to ask for an additional $175,000 to come out of the Melvin Norgard Fund, so we could complete our garages. So basically, we had to take like some cement out of the bid and some other things, just so we could stay under that 7 feet. And then working with the contractors, just to know that, yep, we should be able to get the money back, but that's always a tough thing when it's, money like that it was specifically, set aside for the vet's home, that we have to go back and ask for permission to get into that money, but that's just how it works. And I'm learning that more and more. So, but that's for me, one of the biggest things was just the process of how that goes. But there was no problem with getting that extra 175 out of that Melvin Norgard Fund. So we hope to have those completed probably by mid-July. And like I said, they're already, I was just going through all of them yesterday, and we are going to have them all full. So that was a great thing. Another thing that we've implemented, we started doing this in January. We're doing quarterly employee forums, and it's something that I wanted to really do, just to really feel like we can get information out to our employees down there. So the biggest thing, sometimes when you work for the state, it's real easy just to tell people that, well, we can't do this because Bismarck said we can't, and you don't explain the why to them. And when you're really trying to team build and to have a great culture, which really, when I came in, I continue to focus on that, and it takes more than a year. It's a continuing effort, but just to get our staff more invested and to be part of our facility, and to really feel part of their team, and not to have little silos of I'm a nurse and I'm here, and I'm facilities and I'm here. We're all in the same silo, and we need to work together to do those things. So just a neat thing that we started doing in quarterly forums, which have really, and they're not required for attendance, but we really highly encourage our staff to go to those. And it's just, we do a lot of things. We have a lot of different groups that they can join, and organizations within kind of smaller groups within the vet's home, just to look at things like we have a falls committee, or we have to be part of our activities committee, or multiple. I think we have 6 different ones, but just to get more involved in. So that's really been going good. We held our first, just on Tuesday, we held our first family forum. So it's one of those things that we're required to offer that, for the residents' families to do that, but we can't be the driver behind it. We have to, just make sure that if families want to have their own forum, that they can do that as well. So we started putting information out again, and we had, I think, approximately 8 family members show up. And then, it's a good time for them to also just spend time with their family. And so then their family, most of them came with. So we did that on Tuesday night, and just had a really nice way for family to be able to ask questions of what's going on, or if we've done any policy changes or updates or whatever, and had really good turnout and good participation with everyone. So I was very, very happy with that. So family forum. So the next thing we have coming up, on September 13th, we have a resident and their family, and then employees and their families. We do a picnic down there. This last year when we did it, it was the first time they had done it since COVID, because obviously when COVID happened, all of that type of stuff had to stop. And last year we had over 240 people between the residents, families, and employees who showed up for it. So that will be happening again September 13th. So anyone who's, on this group or whatever, just think, like, we need to come down and just check it out. Certainly, that's always a fun thing. Last year we had a band and music going, and all kinds of food and stuff, but it turned out really well. So we were already in the process of planning that out. Vernon had mentioned, so with our governing board meeting is Thursday, May 22nd. I'm glad that we got clarification, because I will be the first to put my hand up. I was confused too. If you could be part of ACOVA, could you also be on our board? Again, my own personal thoughts, just some of the wording wasn't the best, and I had a lot of people reaching out to me as well too. So now I officially can push the meeting minutes out for our next meeting, because that was one of the things we just wanted to talk about, but at least I can give more clarification. So thank you for being able to go through all of that, and Lonnie and Mark, just discussing those things. So So that's coming up May 22nd. Friday, June 6th is the North Dakota Veterans Home Foundation Golf Tournament. And that last year, the tournament was full. They had 144 teams, 4 people on a team. So just about 576 people total. It was a great day. They always do it on a Friday, and great turnout. And they raised, I don't recall the exact amount, but I mean, it's just a really fun event that they do, you know, for the vets home. And really the last thing that I have is just, it's kind of our, I call it's the summer tour of events. So I did the, what did I have? The DAV a couple weeks ago. They had their conference in Jamestown. This coming Saturday is AMVETS in Valley City. Later on the summer, we got VFW, American Legion, all kinds of stuff. So my summer, I try to get to all of them as much as I can. Susan Schlecht, our marketing and admissions guru, she also goes to those as well. So sometimes we go together. I think there's just one that I won't be able to attend, and then Susie will go. But we always want to make sure that we're out there and thanking, you know, all of our, you know, all those service organizations who can't begin to describe what the donations that they do for us, and even just coming and visiting, and what a difference that makes for, you know, for our guys and gals at the vets home. It's absolutely wonderful. Lamar was out there couple, 3-4 months ago, and it's just, they come on, a lot of times they'll come on a bingo day. We're probably one of the few places that we do bingo. We get, you know, so much money for activities that we, you're not just getting a can of soda or something. I mean, we have cash prizes at our bingo, and it's pretty hopped up. So we get really good attendance for that. The guys love that. But I mean, it's more than just bingo. We go to, we'll have Rib Fest coming up in Fargo. I think that's first or second week in June, and we get guys, I think last year we took about 20 of the guys who signed up for that. So we go on excursions all over the place. They love going to the casino. So we usually, it's a monthly casino that we go down there, and some of our basic care guys will go down there on their own as well too. So it's just really cool to see the activity and everything that goes on there. But does anyone have any questions for me?
I got one. You said a picnic is September?
It's September 13th.
When the DAV does one?
That's the one that the DAV does. I believe that's the third Thursday in June.
Okay, hang on here.
We just talked about that at the DAV.
We should have picnics.
And so like the DAV one, that you guys come and do, and you guys are there for like, you know, a couple hours. This family one is like an all day event. I wouldn't say all day. It usually starts it goes from 10 a.m. to approximately 3. Usually after the lunch, a lot of our guys are like, it's time to go take a little nap or do whatever. But with ours, like I said, last year we had a live band. We had blow up games for the kids to go run in and play, and just a great thing. So we're just kind of in the stages right now. We had our first meeting yesterday of what we wanted to do again. Good question. Yes, Tom.
What is our basic care census right now?
Basic care. Oh, did I not share that with you? 66. Sorry, I
And
should have
that's
said
full?
that as well. What's that?
Full.
We're not full. Skilled nursing, we're full. So 52 is the most we can have in skilled, and that is full. We're at 66 in basic care right now, and I did even have it on my notes here, and I skipped over it because I started talking about the nurse equity. So basic care, I think just in the month of May alone, we have 6 admits. So we float anywhere in basic care from 63 up to about 70. Once we would get into 72, anything over 72, we would have to go and open up that other pod that we had, that they basically utilized for the COVID pod during the pandemic. So we would have to start putting people over there, which we certainly can. But then we would really have to go back to looking at staffing and how because that's, once you open up that other pod, that's a whole nother kitchen, that's a whole nother, you know, as it gets to be more full, you would need housekeepers, more plant or facilities people. Not that, I think facilities we'd be fine because obviously we keep everything going, but once we would get over 72 and have to go across into there, you know, then we would have to start looking at other things.
Isn't the maximum something like 92?
Maximum is 98. So
98?
we're a 150 bed facility. So we have 98 basic care and 52 skilled nursing.
Michelle has a question. How does that compare with the civilian basic care market out there? What percentage is their occupancy?
You know,
Do
we
you
just had
track
our,
that?
we just had our North Dakota Long-Term Care Association conference last week. And basic cares, you go, you know, so we don't have assisted living. So as you kind of go through the, you know, go through the circle of care, you would start with basic assisted living and then skilled nursing. The VA does not recognize assisted living. So you're either basic or you go to skilled. So when I talk about how we have guys who are kind of teetering, you know, and I wish we could take them, you know, and keep them longer and basic, but sometimes it's just like, you know, you're needing more than what we can do. We're, you know, and even if it's someone who's been living there, and if we are full in skilled, we have to find placement for them. We just had one of those last Thursday, unfortunately, who we were able to get him in to a facility within probably about 30 miles. And he would love to come back. And it's a contracted facility, you know, so he's still, you know, his benefits are able to cover, you know, cover his costs there. But that's always the tough part, if they would have to go. But as to go back to your question, most basics, you know, I know I was just looking through, and their occupancy rating right now, just in basic care, if you were to compare us to other ones, most of those are running. I mean, if you come into the Fargo ones, you're probably running closer to 85% occupancy on average. You know, some of the smaller towns, maybe not quite as much. It just kind of varies. You know, a lot of that is you know, where family are and what's available. So you could have a basic care in, you know, Hankinson or something that's full because there was a lot of one family who's there and they keep a good number. But, you know, you come into Fargo where there's, you know, a lot more competition. So their basic might not be always as full, but most basic cares are also going to have an assisted living right there with them as well too. But so for us to have, I mean, really at 66 of, you know, of 98, you know, we're, you know, better than, you know, 50%, 65%, something like that. But, and I know that's one thing, and I don't want to get into, take everyone's time, but that was one thing that has come up in legislative session, just that, you know, the North Dakota Veterans Home state agency, you guys got, you know, 30 plus rooms down there that are open. And we have a lot of other people who could go, that they're looking for placement as well too. And for us, the biggest, we wouldn't be able to take them because they would have to be an honorably discharged veteran to come into our facility. And a lot of them, when they're just, for state agencies, they're looking for placement even for people who have mental health. And again, these aren't always vets. These are just, you know, whomever. We couldn't do that because we still have an outstanding loan with the VA on our facility. So they're going to dictate who we can have in there and the things that we can do in there. And we wouldn't have the staff to take care of them. I don't know how we would get more staff. If we were at full capacity of 98 basic, it'd be a great problem to have. But we would probably get to the point of, you know, you can bring them in, but if you don't have the people there to provide the care, you're doing a disservice.
One more thing.
Yes.
Can you explain the difference by our chapters or posts donating money to the foundation versus donating it to the government?
I had this question a lot that's come up lately. We want to donate to the home specifically. It's easier for us to probably put those dollars into service right away. And usually we get checks because we send thank yous to everyone and I sign off on all of them. And we get donations, you know, some $25, some $500, but I mean, whatever. A lot of the foundation stuff, I mean, they are doing larger events, they're getting larger sums, and we're talking about thousands of dollars. And really, and actually Jim just gave me a really good handout that kind of explains why the foundation was set up. And really the foundation does a good job of building up the funds, and then the interest that's earned off of that money can also be quickly spent. That interest that's earned off the money, it's just kind of so you have an endowment that continues with the foundation. But the foundation is you know, separate. They're part of us, but I mean they have their own governing body as well too. So they both, you know, anyone who wanted to donate, I always, you know, go around and say thank you. And like when we do the golf tournament, obviously I'm there for that and thank everyone. And that's a great thing. They are the foundation. So for us being a state agency, and if we were to have to go in and ask for some money, sometimes it's a little bit tougher to get. Whereas, for instance, the foundation, we needed a bariatric bed, so a bed for people who are, you know, larger in size. Foundation gave us a check we ordered it, got all of our bedding that we needed for it and everything, and it was just under $10,000. Foundation gave us a check, we paid for it. So they were able, foundation is able to do things like that where we wouldn't have to, you know, go into some of our, you know, anything like that would be a capital item. You know, we always are looking at that and budgeting and, okay, we need to upgrade this or that, but we have something that comes up quick like that would be a higher cost that we might not always be able to get, you know, through our normal budget ways. The foundation is able to kick through that way. Does that make a little bit of sense?
So the preference would be to give it to the home.
Okay,
I know you can't say that.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it regardless. Like I said, it's either way it's going to the guys who you know, who benefit from it.
If you write a check to the vet's home for a specific reason, then they can spend it on that, right? If you say, this is for your activities fees, they can spend it now. If you give it to the foundation puts it in their principal and it builds up the amount of interest that they can get. Simple as that. Both are tax deductible.
Michelle, yes, Michelle, I'm sorry. Thank you for being patient.
Oh, no problem. No problem. Thanks. I just wanted, Dane, two comments really. So you had mentioned the employee forums, and I just want to offer our services for one of those. We offer military culture training. So I'm assuming that a lot of your employees have not been in the military, and so it would be great for them to probably understand. We offer an in-person, it's free, it's an hour, or it can be as long as you want. But this military culture training, you know, covers military structure. You know, not everybody is a Marine or a soldier or, you know, a sailor or an airman. There's differences, and there's difference in the branches, but this goes over language, understanding, you know, difficulties. You know, and it will give your staff a better understanding of who they're serving. So again, we're offering that for free. And so I can work with you on a time to do that as well. And then we also have the 2 stand downs coming up. And I know that you had mentioned that your dance card is pretty full over the summer for a lot of events. But this is probably also a good time to reach some of the younger veterans who had not maybe thought about that far in advance, the veterans home. So, and it could be that you already have a table there. These are pretty large events, but if not, I'm inviting you to the one in Minot in Bismarck as well.
We had Susie, I think, had gotten some info on that as well too, but yes, I know that was on our dance card as well, so yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I always feel like I'm taking up everyone's time, so.
I got one more thing to bring up.
Okay.
You said you got 52 skilled beds. Is there any other skilled beds in North Dakota? I know the answer, but you can tell the rest of the committee what this.
Is there any other skilled beds
Available, so that you could go up to 55 skilled beds?
we can petition to the state and have that increased. Our biggest thing is our 52 skilled beds, if you're familiar with our home, is our, what we call it's our deep. So you go down into this pod and it's broken up into 4 different sections as well too. So unless we were to expand off our D pod, we could always bring them over into basic, but then you're kind of running skilled on one side of the building, and then if you use some of our open basic and put skilled in there, just some of the requirements that they need, the different levels of skill and then items that they would need might make it a little bit tougher challenge wise. But for us to do that, we petitioned to the state, you know, for more skilled beds. And our other problem would be just in basic care, we don't need the amount of, RNs that have to be there to provide care, RN, LP, and CNAs. There's less care over there. So if we were to, even jump up to 60 instead of being at 52, because we've talked about that. And to be honest with you, there's way more money in skilled care, than what there is in basic. But from just a logistics of how our building is currently set up, we would have basically two different ends where we're offering that. Not to say that that couldn't happen, but.
I mean, you talked about, I just think outside the box, you talked about assisted living. Those assisting mobile ones could be in that end of the building, under skilled. And, that's kind of what I'm thinking, I think. But the reason I brought that up, when we were talking in Steel there about the Golden Manor, they stole our skilled build beds away and put them in Mandan. So we said, well, we'll just get them back. No, the state's got a number of skilled beds. It's a flat number, and they don't go above that number, don't go below, below it goes, but not above that number. So I just don't know if they changed their method or not.
Yeah, no, and it's still the same method, so I don't know off the top of my head what there is available right now. Just be honest, most skilled nursing facilities, if anything, they're cutting down because they, not that they aren't always full, but they don't always have staff to keep everybody either.
Need drones.
I have one quick question. So if Vern passes away here and he donates all of his mineral rights, and he donates all of his mineral rights instead to the home, and the board decides that they're going to add some more skilled nursing rooms on the end here, and the state approves of it, does the governor have to finalize that? Did they have to go through the governor's office for this when he's donated that?
So none of that's gonna change until, like Mark had said, till July. But
Yeah.
we're, at the end of the day, we're still a state agency, so that would be a large, for us to do a big construction project like that. I mean, we would have to go through the budgeting process with that. We would have to go through.
Okay, let's just say a gift shop he does. Do you still have to get the governor's permission to do that with his donation?
I would say yes.
You would now, either, if you give a donation to the vets home for one of their projects and you specify what it's for, they can usually accept and expend it, but they can't incur a cost on the state. So if they put on additional rooms, they're gonna require upkeep, and that's a legislative burden on state funds.
Okay.
But if you give it and say, here's this money, I want to build a gift shop, and there's enough money there that you don't have to have additional staff or whatever, you may have legislation just for approval. But if we say buy some exercise bikes, doesn't cost anything extra, and that's what he leaves the money for, that he can just go buy.
That we can go and do.
Okay.
Lonnie said perfect.
Clarification on that.
You usually call Mark and OMB and say, can we do this?
And that's what honestly, and that's what I do. When we get things like that, I make, OMB and Mark are always one of my first calls, that I just to make sure that we are doing things the right way.
Yeah, that's what Melvin Norgard did, is he just left to the home. He didn't say what it was for. So there was years of back and forth.
So it's important to say what it's for if you're going to donate.
Yeah, what's the intent? Yep.
Art, did you have one more question?
Yeah. It makes no sense to put the fire pit back to when you got a concrete problem down there that's like an ocean. Have we figured out a way to get that done first?
The big concrete project that you're talking about, just to be 100, the only thing I can really come up with is, we will, put it in for, grounds improvement, capital improvement, whatever, in the next biennium. Because really that project, just to replace that cement alone right now, and I shared with you, it was about $73,000. And again, you are doing something, it's gonna cost, at some point, it's gonna cost for just the maintenance and whatever to keep it cleaned off. So there'll be cost associated that will go back onto the state as well. So I don't know how else to, kind of what he's talking about is one of the service groups had donated to us approximately, I think, $12,000 or $15,000 to do a really neat fire pit out on one of our huge patio areas. And this has been going on now for probably close to 2 years since they made the donation. And they know where they want it, and it would probably be something really, really cool that our, especially our basic guys, even our skilled guys would go out there. But where we would put it, the cement back there has been poured in probably 4 or 5 different sections over time. So if any of you, obviously, you know what it's like in North Dakota, just go out and see sidewalks and how they can up and level out and change. This section where this fire pit would go, needs to be replaced. It just needs to be one pour. We already have the drainage out there, so it's not like we'd have to bring in anything like that. But because I get asked about this, the fire pit, and when are we going to get moving with that? And I'm like, for us to put that out there, and that cement out there, I'm just gonna be honest, there's spaces out there where it's treacherous. And when you're one of our guys, and if you're with a walker or a cane, there are spots out there that, I would hate to have a fall because they're going out there to use it. So in my mind, it makes the most sense before you would put that out there is to, redo that area. I wasn't here when, on this new biennium that's going to be budget time that will be starting in July. So I wasn't there to have any say with kind of, what we were looking at or improvement. So for the next one, if we don't have any other options, that's what our next thing would be, is to bring that as a cost that we're looking, to bring to the legislative session and see. I can't imagine that they're gonna say no, but that puts the people who put this money out for the fire pit, it kind of gonna push it back longer. But I hate to put it out there and then it's sitting on unlevel areas, and my biggest thing is the safety of our residents. And I would hate for to put something nice like that out there, and it's and don't get me wrong, I don't think it's terribly treacherous, but this area back that we're talking about, a lot of our basic care guys park their bicycles, and they got these 3-wheel bicycles now and e-bikes, and so a lot of them, we have parking spots for them back there too. So we're kind of utilizing it for that, especially this time of the year. They're going all over the place. They park there and then they go out on our sidewalks or out and around. So right now it's okay for that. But to really have it as a nice feature, where if you have visitors or guests or families that come out there, to me, why put this nice fire pit out there and you have to worry about just getting to it? We had 2 falls out there last year, just of people, and not to say that we couldn't have had the same fall out in front of the facility either, but just knowing that it's a spot where, and you were there, we kind of went back and looked at it and just saw some of the challenges that we have. It is what it is. So from my standpoint, as we keep going, that would be my next thought. We would try to do it through the in the next biennium.
Yeah, putting a fire pit out there doesn't make any sense when that concrete out there is treacherous. So we'll have to wait 2 more years.
Please, yeah.
Only have enough money to pay for it.
You're gonna steal your time, take that money. You said that cost right now is about 72,000.
72,000. I've got 2 estimates on it. The first one was just under 72. The next one, the guy came and gave us an estimate to do that, to do a little, another little outside area that's right outside of our skilled nursing, where our activities and rehab like to bring some of our guys out and do exercises and things, and they love being outside. But that cement is starting to break up a little bit too. So that was kind of stage 1. And then to add more walking paths. We have this huge, our grounds are gorgeous and this huge facility, and we don't have, other than like right next to the building, I mean, we don't have the best, it's not the best for walkability. And in my mind, just moving forward, and you talk about public health, and for us even to be part of the community, and to offer, more things that people can come out and to be a part of the veterans home and come out and see things and to walk our paths or to do whatever. That's the direction that I've always thought that we need to go. But that was also in that, like I said, when I got a second bid on some things.
And that second bid was like greater than 72?
No, I think it was right about 68, but that was if we did, kind of all three phases.
At one time?
Well, I think they would have worked with us, because they both were local guys, and I think we're pretty good, but yeah, so he was right about 68.
Yeah, we're gonna do that next legislative session. But that's gotta be a priority.
Yep, and for me, it is, so.
Okay.
Any other questions? Much time as Lonnie did, but I mean, it probably took more time than you guys wanted.
It was close.
There seems to be some questions on the foundation. The foundation is made up of 5 veteran organizations. And we meet quarterly with him to see what we can do. And we try to spend just our interest on that, so that we make on it. So if you give us $10,000, 10 years from now, that $10,000 should be in there yet somewhere, because we can't spend it. And like I say, we've got 3 guys from each veterans organization, and we meet quarterly with them. And so it's a VFW, Legion, AMVETS, Vietnam veterans, disabled American veterans. There's 5 different groups.
Yep, they are awesome. They just, like I said, that bariatric bed was, he said, yep, order it, and they got me a check and just paid for it, so. And unfortunately, we're probably gonna see more bariatric patients as we go. So.
Lonnie, a question on the Melvin Norgard fund. There was some challenges to that by the family earlier on. Did those all get completely resolved?
Yes, actually, they challenged it, and we brought in attorneys. They had to hire attorneys. And it turned out, this was like the nieces and nephews of Melvin Norgard, because he had no children. And so they challenged the overall thing. And as they looked at it, they actually found out Melvin Norgard owned more lands and a couple more mineral rights. So those who challenged it ended up losing some of their property out of the deal. And so Melvin Norgard grew a little bit. So, yeah. And then since he didn't say what it was to be used for, then legislation took control, and we had some bill issues. So now all it works, the board makes a recommendation and legislation approves their recommendation. So legislation can't just come out and say, we're going to use that for Williston project. It has to be for the home, and the board and legislation have to agree.
Like it's
good
really,
stuff.
yeah, no, and it's wonderful. The only thing for me that's frustrating is bids came in from the time it was okayed at 750. By the time the opening bids came and your lowest one was 816, we had to basically testify and put in an emergency claim or an emergency proposal, for an additional 175, so we can cover all of that. So it's not, yep, the money and the funds are there, but we can't just, we just need to cover this other portion, and which is fine. And I get the why behind it, but coming from not a state agency for 18 years before this, it's like, okay. But anyway, thank you guys for the rest of the day.
One quick question, who's managing the funds for the